Russell Gahagan here with Russell's Fishing Tech. First and foremost, happy 4th of July weekend. Today is the 4th of July. It's a great weekend to spend some time outdoors with your family. Hopefully you got on the water fishing. I'm taking some time here to film this video to try to help a bunch of anglers out there who are going to start participating in some really big derbies coming up here on Lake Michigan. But you could also take this information on Lake Ontario, Lake Huron, Lake Superior, anywhere where there's derbies that you're looking to get fishing, where you're really trying to catch big fish. This information also would help you if you're fishing tournaments and you're looking to fish some of those smaller number tournaments, fish catch wise, so like 5 fish tournaments or 3 fish tournaments, like the 3-3-3, for example. These are strategies that I've used over the years that have really helped me have a ton of success. So there's 2 big derbies coming up in the next couple of weeks. They're the biggest derbies on Lake Michigan, and I'm going to help you try to win $35,000+ in derby money. Let's see if we can do it. I myself will be participating a little bit in probably each of them. The Salmon-O-Rama, which pays I think around $25,000 to the first prize, also has something that I really enjoy fishing called the Big Five, where you weigh your biggest 5 over the course of the 9-day derby. I unfortunately won't be able to fish a lot of the Salmon-O-Rama this year. Well, I'll be out a lot, I guess I should say, but I won't be able to do the Big Five strategically a bunch. I'll be out a little bit on the Vendetta, which is what I'm on now, my cousin, my uncle's Tierra, and I will be out on the fish stick a little bit with Nate and Kevin and them guys doing some charters and maybe a little bit of fun fishing. Both of the boats are going to be fishing the Big Five. I will also be on the rocks and reels for the second week over in Ludington. We won't be doing the Big Five then, I don't think. Maybe we are. I guess I don't know that yet. But we will be over there for the Ludington Offshore Challenge, and we'll have tickets for sure for the Salmon-O-Rama Derby. So the second weekend of the Salmon-O-Rama Derby also starts the KD Derby. The Salmon-O-Rama Derby, you can fish anywhere on Lake Michigan. They have weigh-in stations all up and down the Wisconsin shoreline, Illinois, Indiana, into Michigan. It's the biggest derby on Lake Michigan. The KD Derby, I think, is probably the second biggest derby on Lake Michigan, and that is specifically Kewaunee and Door County, hence the KD. That derby's been going on for a really long time. It's really popular up there, and it highlights some of the best king fishing on Lake Michigan up in that northern part of the Wisconsin shoreline of Lake Michigan. Let's get into some of the meat and potatoes, some of the tips I'm going to give you on how you can win a bunch of money in the KD and the Salmon-O-Rama in your local derbies. Remember, if you're looking to get any of the stuff we're talking about, you appreciate my videos and you want to help support, you can always go on www.salmoncandyfishing.com and pick up a bunch of the product that I talk about regularly, which is going to help you catch more fish. First and foremost, a couple of just key tips to help you catch more kings and bigger kings during the Salmon-O-Rama or the KD Derby. If you have a trailerable boat, make sure you're fishing somewhere where they're biting. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the downfalls to having a beautiful 2900 Tierra like this one is, or the 33 Trojan that the fish stick is that we're pretty much limited to Sheboygan. Because of work schedules, because of families here, and because of our boats here parked at the local marina, we will be fishing out of Sheboygan. So if Sheboygan doesn't have the best king fishing for the next 2 weeks, you know, we're sort of behind the 8 ball in comparison to maybe, let's say, like Sturgeon Bay, if the king fishing's good up on the Bank Reef, or Kewaunee, or Algoma, or Two Rivers, or Manitowoc, or Port Washington. So if you have a trailerable boat, I would suggest that you try to trailer to where the kings are biting the best. We have lots of sources nowadays, Facebook, you know, there's all kinds of fishing report pages on there that can help you kind of figure out where the fish are biting the best. And if you go to the area where they're biting the best, that's always going to help you catch more fish. The second part is fish during the key times. One of the things I see that happen a lot during these long derbies, these 9-day events and things like that, that Salmon-O-Rama is, and I think the KD is, I don't remember how many days that one is, if it's just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or if it's a week-long deal. I honestly can't. I think the KD is a week-long deal as well. I see guys get burnt out. They take vacation, they get super excited about it, which is really awesome. I know a lot of guys that do take vacation and they go out all week. That is really cool. But they spend so much time out on the water that by the time they get towards the end of it, when they're really trying to get maybe their last fish for the big five, or where maybe they're starting to bite a little bit, they're burnt out. They're having trouble getting out of bed. They're having trouble staying focused and fishing well. So the key is try to fish the key times where the fishing is good. It gives you your best chance. That's what this entire video is on. How do you up your odds so you have better chances to catch more fish and bigger fish? There's really 3 key times, 2 of which almost always come into play, 1 of which can come into play and usually has a tendency to during the salmonorama based on the time of year. The 2 key times are always early and late in the day. We're mostly talking about targeting king salmon in this video, as they generally are going to be the biggest fish in the lake, and you always know first light and last light are going to be your best. And as the water starts to warm up and we get into the middle of summer here, which is what we're starting to approach, midsummer, generally speaking, that early and late bite becomes even better. Now, we do have some cold water around yet, so there is some, random big kings still biting at 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 in the afternoon, but it's far and few between. 3:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. has definitely been the best in the morning for the king bites, and 7 o'clock till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night has definitely been the best for the big king bites in the evening. So making sure you're out at that early morning bite, being prepared with your gear, getting your stuff in the water successfully and correctly so it's not tangled, and being up and awake and ready to go for that early morning bite is really critical. Same thing for the evening bite. Not burning yourself out, heading out at 2 in the afternoon or 1 in the afternoon and being tired and lazy and not changing baits and doing things by that evening bite can really, really hurt you. So making sure you're out there at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and set up and ready to go for when they start biting for that evening trip. Now, I've talked about this a lot before, and it is that full moon deal. Every year we get a couple of full moons during the summer, and that can really trigger that midday bite. It's usually only about an hour and a half long window, but some of the biggest fish on Lake Michigan get caught on that midday full moon bite. I honestly haven't looked when the next full moon is, so that'd be your responsibility to check it out, but we are out of a full moon right now, and that midday bite's been pretty dead. My guess is sometime during the Salmonorama or KD Derby or both that we'll have a full moon back, and you'll start to see that midday bite wake up again. That's usually like an 11 to 1 or 2 in the afternoon deal, and that usually will kill some of the morning fishing or some of the evening fishing. It'll even shorten it up even more. So it may be a situation where maybe you go out at 3:30 in the morning, you fish till 7, you come in, take a little break, maybe even a nap, head back out at 9 o'clock, and fish till 11 or 12 or 1, or maybe you stay out all morning and fish till noon or 1, take a heavy break and head back out at 7:30 at night for that last couple hours of that, that flurry before dark. Knowing what time to be out there and making sure you got your lines in the correct area of the water during the time when they're going to bite is going to be a huge key. Let's talk a little bit about tackle. Anybody that's been following me for a long time knows that I'm not a giant spoon fisherman when it comes to big kings. I love spoons for steelhead. I love spoons for cohos. Spoons catch kings. And when it comes to charter fishing, I fish a lot of spoons from time to time, even for kings, but I know that when it comes to size, flashers and flies are going to outproduce kings. If I was going to go out there right now on Lake Michigan and you could tell me that I could run half the boat with spoons and half the boat with flies, and I'd get 5 king bites on each, 5 kings on spoons, 5 kings on flies, I would say you could probably say 3 out of the 5, if not 4 out of the 5, would be bigger on the flashers and flies than the spoons. You're going to get that random rare big fish on a spoon. Not saying you can't. Not saying that the derby can't be one on a spoon. Those one big fish, can be caught by anybody, anywhere, anytime. But it's really the key factors that I'm trying to help you with here that can up your game and add some strategy and luck to your side that can consistently help you catch more bigger fish during these events. The next thing is keeping an open mind. Throughout that time period that you're fishing that derby, you're going to find some trends. Just make sure you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Be very quick to react and add more lures like the ones that you're having success on, but don't become fully committed. What do I mean by that? Well, I talk a lot about program building. If chrome and blue is working that morning, put more chrome and blue in the water, and use that all for your morning trip. But when you go out in the afternoon, don't put just chrome and blue in the water. Put some chrome and blue in the water, maybe even a good amount of it, but make sure you got a white flasher, a green flasher, a great base to make sure from trip to trip the fish tell you what they're biting on. One of the things I think is becoming interesting is we're hitting that transition time period, which happens every year about the time of the Samarama tournament, early to mid-July. What do I mean by that? Well, in June, chrome and blue is usually our color. We know that. The last couple of weeks, it's really been the standout again. Jackson's Barracuda has been really, really good for everybody. Stud's Blue Chin was on fire for me. It slowed down maybe a little bit, but is still a very good option. I didn't grab a blue stud, but I'm hearing a lot of guys telling me they're having good luck on blue stud. Getting a ton of reports on Megatron, as we always do. And probably the hottest flasher up and down the Wisconsin shoreline for big kings the last couple of weeks has been SGH. SGH is your standby chrome and blue flasher. Still hearing a lot about blue jeans and some of our other chrome and blues that are working. But things are starting to change. I was out the other morning with my buddy Todd Schetzer and Lily. We had a giant on. One of them ones that you wish you would have got a chance to at least see. Lily fought it for a really long time. She didn't do anything wrong. It made a couple of runs and it just finally fell off. That was on Stud's Green Chin, which is one of my go-to early July and through July flashers. Still seeing a ton of success on Mountain Dew Stud. But what you're going to start to see is some of those gaudier colors start to show up. And I've been hearing reports the last couple of days of guys saying Super Frog UV has been their hottest flasher. I'm hearing guys say like Icon has been their hottest flasher. You know, some of those really, really gaudy ones. The other thing is when you're doing these derbies and events, make sure you have one green flasher in the water and one white flasher in the water at least to keep the fish honest. You might go out tomorrow morning. Derby doesn't start till the weekend, but you might go out Saturday morning and put a white green jeans or a white Two-Face or a white Megatron on, and it might be your hottest flasher. At that point, if that thing gets a bite or two, I'm going to start to put out a few more white flashers for that trip. But, like I said, I'm not going to go out in the afternoon or evening then and put out all white flashers. I'm going to keep a base of some chrome and blue, some chrome and green, a white flasher or two, a green flasher or two in the water, and let the fish tell me from trip to trip what they like. Fly-wise, Illumination has definitely been the go-to fly so far this year. Seeing a lot of guys liking No Mercy down south. I've talked a lot about that. But flies, too, we're starting to see that transition. Illumination will continue to work and we'll catch fish, but we're going to start to see the same things that I expect that we're already starting to see the same things that we saw last year, which I expect to continue. Glowing Leprechaun. If you don't have it, you better get it. It was the hottest fly in July and August last year in the Sheboygan, Port Washington area. You know, Manitowoc. This fly is already starting to work for lots of guys. You better have some for the Samarama Derby. Doughboy. Doughboy is one of my favorite July and August flies. It's one of our good frog flies. It's similar to Illumination and Novocaine, but yet different. And for whatever particular reason, this is a fly that definitely works later in the year. Two other ones that I think I know I'll have some on, that I think you should have some on, would be Glow Green Goblin and Naughty Leprechaun. Those two I think are also good later in the year flies that I think you'll do very, very well on. Fly-wise, using it, Salmon Candy's interchangeable system, do the same thing that I said with the flashers. If you put your spread out in the morning and you get a nice king or two on a certain fly, put 2 or 3 or 4 more of those flies out for that particular trip. Then in the afternoon when you go back out or the next morning, start over again with a mix of different ones and let the fish tell you from trip to trip which one they want. Now, here's a key, I think, because all of you guys probably have a bunch of flashers and flies that you're having success on and you're catching some fish on, and that's great. But here's some of the things that I think you can add to your spread that I really think everybody should get a few of if they don't have some already, or maybe even get a few more of that I think could help you catch a few more big fish for this derby, these derbies coming up, these tournaments, these big fives, all of that stuff. And that is fish blades. And particularly, I think the 10-inch fish blades could really, really help you catch more fish, Being that the water is still cold on the Wisconsin side of the lake and we're not fishing real deep, 75, 70 feet down is like the deepest we're seeing any action, mostly in that 30 to 60 down range. I think the 10-inch fish blades like this Blue Jeans UV, not necessarily this color in particular. I'm not really talking colors here as much as just the size profile and what to run with it. But this 10-inch fish blade is something that I think you should have 2, maybe even 3 of every time you go out now if you're going to derby or tournament fish. It's that time of year where the fish are going to start to bite some more of this aggressive stuff, and I think you should have a bunch of this in your spread, or 2 or 3, like I said, mixed in with a bunch of 8-inch flashers and maybe a spoon or something. There's 3 ways that I fish these 10-inch fish flashers, and if I was going to go out, or when I go out Saturday morning for the Samarama Derby, if I get out, I will have 3 of them on, 1 with each setup. Let the fish tell me what they want. Setup number 1 will be a 10-inch fish blade with a 30-inch leader to a fly. Our fish stick charter boat took a couple nice kings on that this weekend. I got a lot of pictures of some other anglers that took nice fish on the 10-inch fish blades with a 30-inch fly on it this weekend. It's starting to become that type of bite. Why the 10-inch over the 12-inch? Again, because we're not fishing real deep, we're not fishing 70, 80, 90, 100 down. The 10-inch profile just fits better for different levels of the water column, isn't as aggressive, and seems to do a little better up high in the water column, where the 12-inch is mostly a deep only type deal. Meat and meat rigs. I know there's a lot of good meat rigs out there. We make meat rigs at Salmon Candy. Musclehead is real popular. Diabolical, Atomic. You should have a meat rig on. If you're going to fish a derby, or you're going to fish a tournament, or you're fishing the Big 5, every time you go, you should have 1 meat rig on. If it fires a time or 2, then maybe put another 1 or 2 out. But the meat rigs behind these 10-inch fish blades like this Glow Green Jeans would be a great option. You should definitely have a meat rig on. And last but not least, and I didn't have one here, I can't believe I didn't, but I have to mention it because I've been seeing a bunch of reports on it lately, is vegan rigs. I know I told everybody I thought that was going to be a big fish catcher this year. It has been. I haven't talked as much about it as I'd like to, just because there hasn't been a lot of big kings around, but a lot of people are already having success on the Salmon Candy vegan rig this year, and I think that's only going to get better and better throughout the rest of the season. So if I was heading out tomorrow, or Saturday morning, I should say again, which is almost a week away, this coming weekend for Salmon-Rama, I would probably, my starting lineup, depending on how many people I had on board, but let's say I had 3 and I was going to run 9 lines, I'd probably have 6 8-inch flasher flies, 1 green blade, 1 white blade, and 4 chrome blades, and I would have 3 10-inch fish blades. I would have a 10-inch with a fly. I'd have a 10-inch with a vegan rig, and a 10-inch with a meat rig. You might be saying to yourself, well, where would you run those 10-inch flashers? I'd probably have 1 on a wire diver with a meat rig down deep, probably my deepest rod. I'd probably have 1 with a fly, maybe on like a board, like a 200 copper, 150 copper, 250 copper, something like that. And I'd probably have the 1 with a vegan rig on a down rigger, maybe in that 40 to 70 down range. That gives you a good idea of some tips that I can give you on how to catch more big fish during these derbies and tournaments. Give yourself a variety from trip to trip to trip. Make sure that you continue to tweak your setup to give yourself the best chance. Keep them honest. Every trip might be a little bit different. Make sure you're mixing in some of those 10-inch fish blades. Make sure you got some of the right colors, flashers, and flies. Make sure you got a vegan rig and a 30-inch fly, 10-inch out. Make sure you're fishing in a good area where there are some kings. It's hard to catch them if they're not there. And make sure during the entire period of that time you're fishing the time frames that make the most sense. That early and late bite. And if the full moon's around, make sure you stay out for a little bit of that full moon. So this is Russell from Russell's Fishing Tech. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do. Also, if you watch this video, please hit the like button. It really helps me with my channel and helps with the algorithm. Last but not least, don't be afraid to comment in the comment sections what your best big fish bait has been this year. That way other people can get some help from you. If it's been a Megatron flasher with illumination fly, or a Jackson's Barracuda, or whatever it's been, post in the comments what your big fish bait has been. This is Russell Gahagan, July 4th. Happy 4th of July weekend. Getting ready for Derby time. July is Derby time. Get your orders into www.salmoncandy.com. Have a good weekend.